Hi everybody, I think I've got something a bit special for you today. Well, I think it is. Some of you will remember that just over a year ago I had a puncture on the combination of a Triban wheel and a Gatorskin tyre. That's the combination from hell. It took us over an hour in -4 centigrade to repair that puncture, and much of that was just getting the tyre off. And those of you that follow Paul Green will know that he never ever lets me forget about it. And because of that episode, I've been on a mission ever since to try and find an easier way of getting a tyre like that on and off. That's the wonderful Grantham Canal we've just passed over. It's a wonderful tranquil place to be in the summer, but not this time of year. It's hedge cutting season and the towpath becomes littered with thorns. So if you want to get a puncture, that's the place to go. But of course, punctures are inevitable with cycling, and it's definitely something we should learn to do. My first review on this was the tyre key. It's a great little tool, very portable, but doesn't help you get the tyre off, and it's no good on anything 28mm and above. Then there was the cycle pal tool. Now that's the best thing I've found so far. It's not very portable, so you'd have to have it in a fairly big bag, but certainly good for those with weak or arthritic hands. So I thought that was it, until just a few weeks ago I was contacted by a chap called Kevin Baker, who said, "I've invented a new way of getting tyres on and off. Would you like to have a look?" And of course I said yes. Kevin told me that he'd returned to cycling after about 30 years and found himself with a puncture and an absolutely awful tyre to get on and off. Now many of us, including me, would just search for something better, but not Kevin. Kevin decided to invent something, and that invention, I can honestly tell you, I believe will spell the end of the tyre lever as we know it. Now that's a fairly bold statement, but wait until you see this thing in action. And the product is called the Tyre Glider. Now I must admit, when I first got this, I was a little bit daunted by the shape of it. Kevin has certainly gone to a lot of trouble to design this. I couldn't imagine how anyone could come up with such an interesting design, but when I spoke to Kevin, he explained. It's quite a fascinating story, but I'm going to interview Kevin in another edition in a couple of weeks' time, and I'll get him to tell you the story, so it's worth subscribing just for that. I wanted to make the test as realistic as possible, so that would be changing a tyre in cold weather outside. Unfortunately, I needed both hands for this job, so I needed my wife to operate the camera, and she said there's no way I'm standing outside in the cold doing this. So what I did, I left the tyre and the wheel outside. They were really cold when they came in, so it's as close as I can get reasonably to a real world test. Before I started this, I had a look at the Tyre Glider instructional video. That told me everything I needed to know. It all became clear once I watched that. I'll put a link to that below. But as you can see here, what we need to do is push the tyre over so we expose the bead. Then we slip this tab underneath the bead, roll the Tyre Glider back so it sits 90 degrees to the wheel and pulls the bead with it. And then we simply just slide it round the tyre and the tyre comes off. Simple as that. Doesn't matter how tight that tyre is, it will come off. So now we've mended our puncture or changed the tube, and we now need to refit the tyre. Now we use a different part of the tool. As you can see, there is a slot in the tool that just slips over the rim. The tyre engages over the tool, and then you just slide it round and it pops it on. Now refitting the tyre was a little bit more difficult when we got to this last part. What you need to do when you're at that point is manipulate that tyre a little bit, push it to the center of the groove on the opposite side, and you should find it will go on. It will take a bit of pushing, so if you're not very strong, then this is where the likes of the cycle pal tool still comes in. But most people, I think, will find that they can do it. Now I hear you say that was a relatively easy tyre, and it was. It was the Mavic Axiom from my Ribble, and it's a fairly new tyre and relatively easy to fit. So the next tyre I tried it on was the Marathon, which is notoriously difficult, and I tried that on the Triban wheel. Now, as you'll probably know, I have changed the wheels on the Triban, but I still had the old damaged wheel, so I used that for this test. Now, because it's a 35mm tyre, it did take a bit more pushing over to expose the bead. You just have to make sure that your tube is flat enough and not holding any air. Once we've found an area that we can get the tab under, it's just a case, again, flip it over so it's 90 degrees to the wheel, and it slides off just like that. What you'll find is with this tab, it doesn't actually damage the tube at all. Now, refitting the tyre on a Marathon was a little bit more difficult when we got to this last part. What you need to do when you're at that point is manipulate that tyre a little bit, push it to the center of the groove on the opposite side, and you should find it will go on. It will take a bit of pushing, so if you're not very strong, then this is where the likes of the cycle pal tool still comes in. But most people, I think, will find that they can do it. One thing that will help if you've got a really tight tyre is to put a little bit of washing up liquid on the bead, and you'll find it will make it much easier. Now, you might argue you won't have this out on the road, but frankly, if I have a really tough tyre, I'd probably take a little bit of washing up liquid in a tiny bottle in my bag. So there you have it. It's an incredibly versatile tool, very simple to use. What's that I hear you say? What about the Gatorskin and Triban combination? Oh, go on then. Let's have a go. Now, this tool is going to retail at $9.99, which I think is pretty good value when you consider the amount of design work that's gone into it and the amount of time and money Kevin has invested here. So I think it's very generous to go out at that price. The only thing I don't like, and I discussed with Kevin, is postage is $2.99. It's 30% of the price of the tool. Kevin did explain that because he's tried to make this tool as small as he can but still be effective, it still goes into a larger postage bracket. So that's why he's not making any money on it. He's just trying to cover his costs. But what he did tell me is he can actually get 4 of these in a $2.99 delivery package. So if you order 4, if you get together with your mates, then you can save on the postage. I did discuss with Kevin a giveaway, which he agreed to. He'd give a couple of these units away, no problem at all. But we really wanted more people to have the opportunity to try it and benefit from it. So we're not going to do a giveaway. What we're going to do is a 10% discount on the first 100 orders. And we're going to give you a discount code that'll be on the screen now, but it's also in the description below. But what it means is that if, for example, you do order 4 units, that will still just count as 1 order. So that way we ensure that a minimum of 100 people can benefit, but you know, hopefully many more. As you know, I tell you the truth. If I thought it was rubbish, I would have told you, but it's not. This is a game changer. I can see this being an everyday tool that's offered instead of tyre levers. So if you want to get in early, try it. There's your opportunity. Unfortunately, this product isn't available outside of the UK at the moment, but I'll put Kevin's email address below, and if you are abroad and you want to contact him, he'll let you know what the postage is. Also, I think if you're a big club or a big group and want to buy a number of these, again, drop him a note. I'm sure he'll be up for a deal. I also just want to make it clear that there's absolutely nothing in this for me. There's no commission, no affiliate deals or anything. I'm just happy to do this to help Kevin launch what I really think is a truly innovative product. Well, I hope you found that of interest, and if you do buy the tool, please come back and let me know how you got on. I certainly think it's the future. So until we speak again, bye for now. Well, temperature's dropping now, it's getting on, it's started to get dark, so I'm going to get home as quickly as I can.